All right, people. So, hey, I guess it's a little bit of a crash course, but it's not really a crash course if you've learned this stuff before. And technically, you guys have heard this history before. We're going to look at English colonization today in like a pretty quick manner, I suppose. If you think back to like 8th grade history, you've done this before, and some of this early stuff you did last year. So you should have some prior knowledge, but if you don't, if you're coming in clean slate, you'll be okay. Just you might need to do a little extra, I don't know, studying to make sure that you are where your peers are. So we're looking at the colonies, stuff that you might know. In fact, I've already answered this question of why England was slow to the colonization ballgame, why Spain had such a huge head start on the rest of Europe. Why was Spain 100 years like monopolizing the colonies? What did they have that others didn't? Unity. Spain had unity. They were religiously unified. They weren't fighting each other. They weren't fighting other countries. Spain was unified. England is far from unified with their religious problems. And maybe this is where you have some prior knowledge. You're thinking about Henry VIII, and you're thinking that he wanted something that the Catholic Church didn't allow. You remember? A divorce. Catholic Church doesn't allow a divorce, so he's like, well, fine. I'm going to create my own religion. It's the Church of England. And the Church of England will be Protestant-ish, but not fully Protestant, yet not fully Catholic. And it's going to create all of these religious problems in England for a while. And by the way, I'm hoping you know something about the Protestant Reformation. I'm hoping you remember Martin Luther, because honestly, the shock waves, the ripple effect from the Protestant Reformation, it's going to last hundreds of years. And we're talking like intense conflict, hatred of different groups because of this. And just kind of think about it. Do people feel strongly about their religion? What if somebody changes it? You might not like that person. And that's kind of the relationship between Protestants and Catholics for a long time in world history, and it's especially going to be the case in American history. So if you remember any of that stuff, you're great. If not, don't worry. I'll teach kind of the after effects for a long, long time in this course. So again, going back to it, why is England slow? Because they're messing with religion. And they're trying to sort out their religion. Like, are we Catholic? No. Are we Church of England? Are we Protestant? They don't know, they don't know, they don't know. She finally unites, energizes, and organizes them. So you probably remember Elizabeth I. But just maybe as you're writing Elizabeth I, she energizes England. She unites England. She basically gets them all on the same path, and then they start kind of pestering their neighbor, Catholic Spain. Philip II is the king of Catholic Spain at this point. So don't stress Philip II too much, to be honest. And I don't go crazy heavy on every single world monarch there is. But you guys do need Elizabeth I. So again, she starts to organize, energize, unite England. And as far as pestering the Spanish, well, she sends out some pirates. They call them sea dogs, but these sea dogs are glorified pirates. And this guy, Sir Francis Drake, he's a pirate stealing Spanish booty. And again, think about what Spain's coming back, crossing the ocean. They've got riches, they've got gold, they've got silver. Well, now England is stealing it, and England's getting rich. And England's getting their foot in the door with these sea dogs. And they see the opportunity. Does Spain like this, by the way, of being attacked by sea dogs / pirates? No, so that relationship is souring. England and Spain, they're hating each other at this point because England is stealing their stuff. And by the way, quick tangent, that was my old sea dog, Charlie. Charlie was the greatest. That's him on the shores of Lake Michigan. We lost Charlie a couple years ago. But there's Charlie with Jack, who you met, and there's Matthew, my son, enjoying Lake Michigan. Izzo, the menace, has never been to Lake Michigan, but we plan on taking her this summer. So Who knows what Izzo will do? She'll probably like just try to run out in the water, and I'll have to rescue her. She's not that bright. But anyway, Jack is scared of the water. That's your quick sea dog tangent. But my point, again, going back to history, England's making some money. They're getting their foot in the door. Now they want to start a colony. This is prior knowledge that you have. You know their first attempted colony. I know that like 8th grade history would have spent way too much time on this attempted colony. Somebody's got it. Shout it if you remember the attempted colony. Fail. Like many fails. Roanoke is the correct answer if you did say that. If you're confused in your mind and you said Jamestown, that's permanent. This is an attempt. So clarify in your mind if you've got some colonial confusion. But Roanoke, it's like Sir Walter Raleigh's going to drop off a bunch of guys and say, hey, start a colony. I'll check on you in a year. But then he comes back to Roanoke and they're gone. They disappeared. It's the mystery, the lost colony of Roanoke. And this is why I think you guys spent too much time on it way back in the day, because they probably did activities and a reading about the lost colony. And it's like, you can go down that rabbit hole. Long story short, it didn't work. But they're trying to colonize. How does Spain feel about this now, kind of encroaching on their territory? Does Spain like England colonizing their area? Definitely not. So Spain is going to try to kill England here. Like go to war, all-out war. And this is the backdrop to Spain sending the invincible Spanish Armada to kill England. We're now in 1588. So hopefully some of this context is filling in the gaps and it's now making sense. So Spain is going to send over this invincible Spanish Armada. It's a turning point, though. You know what happens. Does Spain win and eliminate England and kill them all? No, Spain lost. So this was Spain's peak. They're about to decline. England wins here. And that, I guess we can say, foot that England had in the door, that door is now flung wide open and the rest of Europe is going to come to the New World en masse. So yeah, England's going to have their permanent colony, but other countries come too. Help me out really quick with another country that comes to the New World to colonize. The French. Do you guys know where the French go? Canada. Good. So we got the French going to Canada. The Dutch, they go to like present day New York. It was originally New Amsterdam. Even the Swedes come over. But my point, now that Spain lost, that door is flung wide open, and now everyone is going to be coming over, and Spain doesn't have the military might to stop them. Eventually, by the way, you guys are going to have to compare and contrast your countries and their political systems, their economic systems, their social differences. And I feel like you know a little bit of this, maybe either common sense or like prior knowledge. For example, the French, they're in Canada. How do you make money off Canada? Fur trade. See, there's a lot of beaver. You kill the beaver, you take the fur, you make a lot of money from that. The French were dominant in the fur trade for quite some time. You already know how the Spanish made money, right? Gold and silver and sugar. Do you know how the English make money? Tea. A lot of different things is the answer. Tobacco and more. Don't worry about English economic systems yet because I've got a laundry list. The English are going to be well off because of their diversity in extracting wealth. So you'll see a lot of advantages will eventually make England number one. Well, let's put that as a tomorrow problem, a further down the road issue. So far, so good? All right. A lot of information on this slide. And I'll kind of tell it in story form, and then I'll let you loose in processing it. But let's start with Jamestown and get that year down. 1607 is our first permanent colony. 1607, you guys probably remember that. It's been drilled into your brain many times over. And let's also note geographically, Jamestown is in the Chesapeake. The Chesapeake, you'll hear me say a lot. I'll say the Chesapeake colonies, or compare and contrast the Chesapeake. So anytime I say the Chesapeake, know that I'm talking about Virginia and Maryland. So just tell yourself, the Chesapeake equals Virginia and Maryland. That's the Chesapeake Bay, by the way. There's Jamestown. Jamestown is part of the big colony of Virginia. Who's Virginia named after? Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen. So again, it gives you kind of the context, the timeline. Elizabeth I, she's the one that energizes and unites. Virginia is named after her. So anyway, the Chesapeake, Virginia, and Maryland. And as for our Jamestown story, these terms, I'll kind of explain in story form, but you might know a little bit about Jamestown. If you've seen the Disney version of Pocahontas, as terrible as it is, it tells you something. Have you seen the Disney version, Pocahontas? I couldn't make it through the movie with my son. I mean, he was like 5 at the time, and I watched it until Pocahontas was like singing to a magical tree, and then like the tree gave her translating powers, and I'm like, oh, Matthew, I can't watch this anymore. I'm sorry. And he kind of lost interest as well. But hey, if you watched it, you learned a little bit about the Virginia Company. So just kind of think, if you know the movie, great. If not, I'll explain each of these. And again, know that you have Quizlet, and know that maybe you focus on what I'm emphasizing. You focus on my emphasis, the essentials, as I'm telling the story. When they come over, they want to make money. They want to make money. The Virginia Joint Stock Company, it's a money-making venture. And how do you make money from the colonies? How did Spain make money from the colonies? Mining gold. So they're coming over and they're looking for gold. In the movie, they're like digging holes looking for gold. But in reality, they were looking for gold. And as you probably know, there's not a ton of gold in Virginia. So they're looking for gold. They're looking for gold. They can't find any gold. They're not planting crops. They're not planting for the winter. They almost all die that first winter. And we're talking like 2/3 will die from starvation, or other issues from malnourishment. They did such a bad job planning. Some of them were drinking like salt water from the sea because they didn't even dig clean wells. That's going to make you go crazy. So they almost all die, but this guy comes along and kind of saves them from collapse. John Smith. I'm going to give you a quote next to John Smith that you might remember from back in the day. If you don't work, you don't eat. John Smith whips them into shape. If you don't work, you don't eat. So sure enough, they're doing better. They're prospering. Their population goes up rather than like almost near death. So John Smith, he's bringing some kind of stability, prosperity. And as their numbers go up, sure enough, they move westward. But who already lives there? Native Americans. And eventually Native Americans feel threatened by the encroachment on their land. So Powhatan is the chief. His tribe is called the Powhatan Confederacy. He's going to make a power play here. In fact, this is what, I don't know, you may know or know a distorted version of it, but let me tell you what actually happened. They start kidnapping a bunch of settlers, including John Smith. They killed a few of the settlers, saying, don't step on our territory, this is ours. And they're about to kill John Smith, Captain John Smith, the leader John Smith. But they're about to kill him. They're going to do this in public. They're going to chop off his head. And like seconds before the execution, Pocahontas saves John Smith. She's the daughter of the chief. And this was a deliberate move. It's a mock execution, and it makes some sense if you think about it. They're trying to say, hey, look, we saved you. You need us. Let's coexist. Let's live together. You guys have your area, but we're powerful, and we just saved you. Now let me ask, is this going to be a happy ending like the Disney movie might depict? Did they get to hold hands through history, skip through the frontier, and everyone loves each other? No, it's an ugly history. A very ugly history if we look at Indian and colonial relations. So, yeah, you got a temporary peace here with the saving of John Smith, but soon enough, this guy comes over. And this guy, Lord de la Warr, next to his name, right, Irish tactics. This guy previously fought the Irish. And if you guys know anything about the English and the Irish, England brutalized Ireland, like tortured, rape and plunder and horrible, horrible things to the Irish. So if this guy's using Irish tactics, he now uses them against the natives to clear out more and more land. In fact, Lord de la Warr clears out so much land, a colony and later a state is named after Lord de la Warr. Say his last name quickly and you know the colony / state. Delaware. De la Warr. Delaware, he's clearing out the natives. So just think, the natives, they're getting cleared out. They eventually will try to recover. They'll eventually try to fight again, but this is a sad story where they keep losing and losing and losing. And now they're really going to lose with the innovation of this guy. This guy, kind of write down as the father of tobacco. He makes tobacco a profit powerhouse in the colonies. And if you get confused with all the Johns, this is an easy one to remember. Kind of as you write or as you say John Rolfe, go, John Rolfe, like you're going to puke. Because if you chew tobacco, if you smoke tobacco, it's going to make you sick. So just kind of think John Rolfe is the father of tobacco, and then you'll never confuse your Johns. You don't work, you don't eat. Tobacco man, John Rolfe. You get it? Here's the issue with tobacco. Other than it making you sick, you need a whole lot of land. More land, more land, more land. They keep making so much money, they continue to expand westward. Sure enough, there will be another war as a result of this, and one of the wars will be solved with the marriage of Pocahontas and John Rolfe. So this is kind of messed up. Yeah, she was like 13 or 14 years old, and you know it's not a happy ending for her. She goes to England, she gets sick, she eventually dies, and then the tobacco, well, they just keep on moving west, and that's kind of the story of settlement over the next couple hundred years. So that's the story in a nutshell, long story short. I feel like you can process this, you can look in Quizlet to get those terms if you just missed them, but it was probably a review. You need to ask any questions, because that's as far as I want to get today. Look at the closing, it's going to help you process it all. And I think that you can work together, be creative with it. Should have enough time to knock it out by the end of class. Feeling good? I'm going to grade your quizzes. I'll get that in the book, and you'll have your quiz in your possession tomorrow. Work together, talk together. You should be able to get this done. Number 7 is a fun one for you.
Yeah.